Good evening, officers and colleagues, and welcome to this meeting of the Council's Cabinet on Monday, the 20th of October. Before we start the agenda, may I just remind everyone present that this meeting is being broadcast live via YouTube, and the recording will be archived for future viewing. Could all councillors and officers please ensure that they switch on their microphones when speaking and switch them off when they've finished. This will ensure that the cameras focus on the person speaking. Thank you. I'll move to the agenda. Item 1, to receive apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? None being shown. Thank you. Item 3, to approve as a correct record the public minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of September. I'll move them as a correct record. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor McKiernan. All those in favour of approving the minutes, please show. There's 4 present, and any abstentions? And 2 abstentions. Thank you. To consider any urgent business brought forward to the meeting under Rule 12. I'm not aware of any. I'm told that's correct. Item 5, forward plan. Chief Executive.
Thank you, Leader. This is the forward plan from the 1st of November through to the 28th of February 2026. Happy to take any questions on the forward plan.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Any questions from members of the Cabinet? No, that's to be noted then. Thank you. Item 6 is the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman's Annual Review Letter 2025. Can I ask Andrea to present, please?
Thank you, Leader. This is a regular report we bring through each year to summarise the Ombudsman's review letter, which is received annually, and it provides statistics on the decisions made in relation to the Council for the preceding financial year, so that's 24-25 in this case. The report provides a breakdown on the few complaints and enquiries the Ombudsman did receive, as well as the decisions made during that year. Of the 10 decisions made by the Ombudsman last year, only 1 was upheld. This paints a positive picture overall in terms of our performance. Paragraph 5.3.3 of the report does provide some further detail of the single complaint that was upheld, including the findings. In summary, there was no further action needed in that case, as they found that the Council had already provided a satisfactory remedy before the complaint had even reached them through our own management of that complaint. In the subsequent sections of the report, the relevant benchmarking information from the LGA's Inform benchmarking tool have been provided to compare against our SIPFA nearest neighbours. The diagrams you can see throughout section 5.5 suggest that the Council performs very well in comparison to those other similar local authorities, which again is a positive position to be in. Section 5.6 shows a breakdown of how the Council has performed in relation to its own formal complaints procedure. There were just 49 formal complaints throughout the year across the whole of the organisation, and the vast majority of those were dealt with at the early stages of our process, most of those being at the initial point of contact. Councillors will recall that partway through the year, the complaints process was refined down to a new 2-stage internal procedure, with the Ombudsman then being a subsequent stage. The Council adopted the new procedure at its meeting in December 2024, and the reason for this was to align our processes with the new complaints handling code. The Ombudsman will consider the code in its casework from April 2026. However, the Council implemented the changes more immediately as good practice, not only to align to the code, but also to streamline our own process. A requirement of the code is the completion of an annual self-assessment to help evaluate the quality and culture of complaint handling in local authorities, with the Council's first self-assessment being provided at Appendix 3 of the report, and that assessment indicates the current procedures do align to the code. Within the report, details have been provided from departmental managers of any changes in process identified following any formal complaints received, as well as providing a breakdown of any positive feedback the Council has received as well. The recommendations are that the report and associated appendices be noted. So I shall pass back to you, Leader, for any further questions.
Thank you, Andrea. Any questions from Cabinet members? So that report is to note, so we'll note that. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Item 7, budget consultation feedback. Daniel, please.
Thank you, Leader. The report provides Cabinet with feedback of the public budget consultation exercise that was undertaken over a 4-week period in July and August of 2025. Its purpose was to gather residents' opinions on the services the Council provides, including which they deemed most important, and their views on areas of income generation. The consultation was available both online and in paper copy form. The consultation saw 179 responses, which is broadly in line with the outcome of previous budget consultation exercises, with the summary responses to the questions asked set out in the body of the report and full details of responses provided in Appendix A. The recommendation is that Cabinet note the feedback provided by the consultation exercise and utilise this alongside other available information to help inform and provide direction to the next update of the medium-term financial strategy for 2026-27 onwards.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for reading the recommendation out. Any questions? Any comments? I'll move that recommendation at 12. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Chowdhury. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Item 8, Statement of Community Involvement 2025. Naomi, please.
Thank you, Leader. A Statement of Community Involvement, or SCI, is a requirement under the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act 2004. The Council is required to prepare and review an SCI every 5 years, and the current SCI was adopted in 2020. The 2020 SCI has been reviewed and updates are considered necessary. Consultation was also required, and this has now been completed. The comments received have been considered and summarised and attached to Appendix 1 of the report. In total, 8 responses were received with 1 late response. Appendix 1 also offers a response to those comments. Further amendments have been made and the final version of the SCI is at Appendix 2. The recommendations are to adopt the updated version and also revoke the 2020 version. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Any questions from Cabinet? Comments? No? I'm happy to move that recommendation at 13, those 3 recommendations. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor McKiernan. All those in favour? Sure. Again, that's unanimous. Thank you, Naomi. I've got now item 8. Again, Naomi, please.
Yes, thank you. The purpose of the report is to consider the examiner's report into the updated Denstone Neighbourhood Plan and decide whether the updated neighbourhood plan should proceed to referendum. By way of background, the updated Denstone Neighbourhood Plan was examined in early 2024 and the examiner's report was received in February 24. The regulations prescribe that examiner's reports are considered within 5 weeks of receiving them. However, the Parish Council and their planning consultant sought changes to the plan that were not recommended by the examiner. As background, if the Council proposed to make a decision which differs from that of the examiner, then the regulation requires councils to consult on the proposed decision and the reason for it. Whilst discussions with the Parish Council were ongoing, the government changed national planning policy for wind energy, which meant that the examiner's recommended modification relating to one of the policies in the revised neighbourhood plan would no longer be compliant with national policy. Legal advice was sought on this issue, which recommended that a focused consultation on the proposal not to accept the examiner's recommendation relating to that policy alone take place. The legal opinion also noted that the Parish Council suggested other changes and advised that the Council should not take a different view to the examiner's recommendations on other policies. The Council undertook consultation on the wind energy policy, which closed at the beginning of September, and no significant issues were raised during that consultation period. The recommendation is therefore to accept the examiner's recommendations as set out in Appendix C of the report and take the revised neighbourhood plan to referendum.
Thank you, Naomi. Any questions? Comments? No? The recommendations are at 13. I'm happy to move those. Can I have a seconder? Councillor McKiernan. All those in favour? Show. That's unanimous again. Thank you. Thank you, Naomi. Item 10, the East Staffordshire Community Lottery second year update. Can I ask Sarah to present, please?
This is a report into the second year's performance of the Community Lottery, which was launched in July 2023. The lottery has continued to raise funds for a range of groups throughout the second year, but its overall performance has seen a decrease on funds raised. During the second year, it raised £11,156.90 compared to £14,154.70 in year one. Gives us a combined total over the 2 years of operation of just over £25,000. There are currently 60 good causes registered with the lottery. That's an increase on 1 from year one. But 29 of these are not currently raising any funds through the lottery as they have no tickets purchased by supporters. With the onus being on the good cause to promote the lottery to their supporters and for them to in turn to buy tickets, this provides an explanation for the differing levels of success for good causes, and this was reflected in the feedback that we received. The central fund, or the community fund, which is managed by the council, has generated a revenue of £2,350.40 in year two, providing an overall total across 2 years of £5,146.10. To date, no funds raised through that central fund have been distributed in grants, as the intention was to allow that fund to grow. Given the current trajectory indicates an ongoing gradual decline in revenue, the recommendation is that the lottery closes at the end of its third year. There continue to be challenges with growing the lottery. It offers an alternative form of council funding support for the sector, but the method of generating a regular revenue is problematic for some groups. Closing the lottery at the end of the third year in July 2026 will give sufficient time to serve the required 6 months notice to Gatherwell, as well as notice to the good causes, who can then be signposted to the council's other grant funding schemes and support provided where needed. The recommendations are listed in section 18. But the recommendation is to close the lottery at the end of its third year, to utilise the funds raised through the central fund for a further year to support the operational costs, and then once the lottery has closed, the remaining funds held in this central fund will be distributed to the registered good causes, with the CCF panel having oversight. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions? Any comments? No, the recommendations, as Sarah said, are at 18. 5 of those. I'm happy to move those. Could I have a seconder? Simon, thank you. All those in favour? That's unanimous again. Thank you, Sarah. Move on to item 11, the review of the subscription-based garden waste service. Paul, please.
Thank you, Leader. So, as a reminder, the garden waste subscription service commenced in January this year with a subscription cost of £40 and an early bird offer of £35 for those that signed up prior to the end of January. We also offered a 50% concessionary rate for households in receipt of income replacement benefit. Participation rates have exceeded expectations. At the time of writing the report, they had risen to 26,500 households. Figure 1 in the report shows the subscriptions received on a monthly basis, with nearly 74% taking advantage of the early bird offer. In terms of the concessionary rate, we received 479 applications. 55% of those were approved. We were anticipating a reduction in recycling performance due to a reduction in collection tonnages. At this stage, we're estimating a 3 to 5% reduction due to the hot spring and the dry summer, which resulted in poor growing conditions. It's worth noting that the separate collection of food waste from April next year should help to offset some of this loss. In terms of contact with the public, up until mid-July, the team had received over 5,000 calls, and a breakdown of those calls is shown in Table 2. It's anticipated that the level of calls will reduce in future years as households become more familiar with the subscription service and how to use the resident portal. A potential increase in fly tipping was raised as a concern. Levels have continued to be monitored. Figure 2 highlights the results and shows no increase in garden waste related incidents. We will continue to monitor that. In terms of charging for 2026, 6 options are being proposed based on 3 different prices, each one of those with and without the £5 early bird discount. Firstly, the charge is to retain the current charge of £40. The second one is an RPI increase of 2.9%, which would increase the standard charge to £41.16. And the third one is to increase the standard charge to the county-wide average of £42. Table 4 in the report shows the estimated income for each of those options and the income on the budget. The cost of providing the service is approximately 1.1 million, so only option 6 achieves the full cost recovery. However, the preferred option in the recommendations is option 1. The financial considerations are shown in section 12 in the report, and the recommendations are at section 19. I'd be happy to take any questions on those or the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions on the report? Any comments? Okay, I'm happy to move the recommendations at 19, and I just want to stress that Cabinet are asked to approve option 1. I can just make that clear, yeah? So I'll move them recommendations at 19. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor McKiernan. All those in favour, please show. Thank you, that's unanimous. I'd just add that that means there's no increase in the service, the status quo remains. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. That concludes the public part of the meeting. So we move in to consider business that is exempt. So I'm therefore going to move that in accordance with section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the remainder of the meeting, as it is likely in view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings that there would be disclosed exempt information as defined in paragraph 1, part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act. I've moved that. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Slater. All those in favour? That's unanimous. We'll now move into the private part of the meeting.